Twins team Cy Young odds, Twins team Rookie of the Year odds, and my picks coming up on today's episode of Locked On Twins.
You are Locked On Twins, your daily Minnesota Twins podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome to the Locked On Minnesota Twins podcast. Today is Thursday, February 23rd, and I'm your gracious host, Nash Walker. Thanks for making Locked On Twins your first listen every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. Again, this is Nash Walker. I've been hosting this show for 3 seasons, 4 off seasons. Been writing about the Twins at twinsdaily.com for 4 seasons, 4 off seasons. And today, Team Cy Young odds, Team Rookie of the Year odds. Always interesting. Last year, Jose Miranda, Jhoan Duran burst onto the scene as rookies. Who could it be in 2023? I have some odds and then my picks. If I had $100 in hypothetical dollars, who would I put it on for the Team Cy Young? Who would I put it on for the Team Rookie of the Year? Would I put it all on one? Would I not? Would I spread it around? We're going to find out today. I do have the odds for both. Friday's show will be storylines for the weekend. We got our projected starters. So exciting. We got probable starters for spring training's first weekend for the Twins. Really excited. So weekend storylines, and then what would constitute a successful season for the Minnesota Twins in 2023. We'll have that discussion Friday. Starting today, Team Cy Young odds. And I like to split this up from Team MVP. We did have pitchers under the Team MVP odds, but it's much more likely a position player is going to win Team MVP, and it's much more likely a reliever could win the Team Cy Young award than it is a reliever to win the Team MVP. We have relievers on the Cy Young list. Last year, Jhoan Duran, I think, was the Twins Team Cy Young winner. Sonny Gray pitched well. Joe Ryan pitched well. Jhoan Duran was the best pitcher on the team in 2022. And it is hard for a reliever to rack up the innings, enough innings to push a starting pitcher in this type of discussion, but that's why we separate it. And that's why we separate starters and relievers in the MVP odds. It's further for the Cy Young. They're close. They're close. They can win. And then you're going to see that in who I bet on here. Here are the odds. Some of this is subjective. I think some of it is objective based on age, based on projection, based on performance in recent seasons. And here's what we have. Pablo López, I have at 4-1. He's the team favorite to win the Team Cy Young Award in 2023. That's an implied probability at 20%. You might say that's a little too low for Pablo López. Sonny Gray, I have at 5-1, so just below López. Tyler Mahle, 6-1. Joe Ryan, 6-1. Jhoan Duran at 10-1. Kenta Maeda at 12-1. Bailey Ober at 12-1. Jorge Lopez, 15-1. Griffin Jax, 30-1. Caleb Thielbar, 30-1. Louis Varland, 50-1. And then the field is 100-1. That would be everybody else. Jordan Balzovic, Simeon Richardson, others you would want to bet on at 100-1 in the field. Some reasoning for this. Pablo López is the favorite to me. People forget. Pablo López, I believe, is 3 months older than Joe Ryan. They're like almost the exact same age. And López, to this point in his career, he's had a good career. If 2022 had not happened the way that it did, there were some positives from his season that he threw 180 innings, but the negatives that he faded, that it was his worst rate season, worst efficiency season in years. He was very good in the previous 2 to 3 years, but he didn't pitch as many innings because of a shoulder injury. It's like bittersweet that he pitched 180 innings in 2022, but at less effectiveness than he had in years prior. So you wonder, is it a good thing? It was 2022 a good season? Was it not? It was kind of a tale of two halves. He was great in the first half for Miami, excellent all-star level pitcher. And then in the second half, faded, fell off, still reached 180 innings, made 30 plus starts. And the Twins need that in their rotation. Certainly. I think he is the most likely to reach that threshold of 180 innings. I think he's the most likely to do it at the most effective rate. I think Sonny Gray last year, he's a good example. He pitched really well when he pitched, but he just didn't reach enough innings. And he had a bunch of injuries, the hamstring, the pec. I'm less confident Sonny Gray is going to stay healthy. I'm less confident Tyler Mahle is going to stay healthy. I think Joe Ryan at 6-1 is as much about my internal doubt, I think, in some ways, that he's going to be able to take that next step forward in 2023. But my $100 spread out will tell you I'm willing to be optimistic on Joe Ryan in my bet, but not as much in his odds. I think Joe Ryan, you can project a strong 150, 160 inning season from Joe Ryan, similar to last year. If you believe there's more in the tank, he's probably a steal at 6-1. Jhoan Duran is the highest rated reliever, the lowest odds or the highest odds, however you want to look at it, at 10-1. You might view him as a great value. Jorge Lopez at 15-1 could lead the team in saves, for whatever that's worth to you, could lead the team in saves, could put together a full season that looks like the first half of his 2022 in Baltimore. It's possible for Jorge Lopez. I'm on the Griffin Jacks train, and Dan Hayes was on with Aaron Gleeman and John Bonus on Gleeman and the Geek, I think yesterday or Tuesday, and he said Griffin Jacks believes he's going to touch 100 before spring training is out. If Griffin Jacks is throwing 100, man, I like him at 30-1. I'm such a believer in Griffin Jacks for 2023. I don't know if I'm a believer enough to put money on him as the team Cy Young, because it's going to take a lot for him to jump Duran in the bullpen and for him to outperform a starter. That's why Duran's still 10-1 here. Still 10-1 because he's a reliever. It's just so hard to get that value out of the bullpen. Duran last year, it's hard to be more valuable than Duran was last year for them, especially in a bullpen that was run down, that wasn't performing well outside of him and Griffin Jacks. Caleb Thielbar was great in the second half, but Duran, man, if they didn't have Duran, they wouldn't have been in first place for 100 plus days in 2022. 10-1 could be a steal on Jhoan Duran. Am I going to put my money where my mouth is? Let's find out. My picks after this word from FanDuel Sportsbook. FanDuel Sportsbook, it's the midway point of the NBA season. It's here. Now is the perfect time to download FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes drained. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at a bigger payout with a same game parlay. So don't miss the chance to get your no sweat first bet up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Thank you again for making Locked On Twins your first listen every day. Locked On MLB Prospects is fantastic, hosted by my friend Lindsey Crosby. He's a prospect encyclopedia going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. My picks have $100 with these odds. The odds matter. Here's what I would do. I spread it out, I think, a little bit more than I did with my MVP money. My highest value is $30, and I put it on Jhoan Duran. I know, I was just ripping. I was just saying, a reliever can't win the team Cy Young. Jhoan Duran is the best pitcher on the Twins. So if I'm looking at who I think is most likely to win the Cy Young, the team Cy Young, I'm going to put my most money on who I think the best pitcher is, regardless of whether they're a reliever or a starter. I think Jhoan Duran is the best pitcher by a decent margin on the Minnesota Twins. So I put $30 on him. Joe Ryan at 6-1. I put $25 on Joe Ryan. Maybe this is recency bias, because we heard through the great reporting of Dan Hayes and Do-Hyung Park and Betsy Helfand, Joe Ryan has adjusted his slider to get more of that sweeping action, and he's throwing a splitter. Now. I believe he went to Driveline, Joe Ryan, this offseason. When you hear the Driveline, you're, oh, unlock. Something's going to unlock. I want to see Joe Ryan. He's going to pitch Sunday against the Phillies. We'll get to that storyline on Friday's episode. I want to see it. This might be recency bias, but I'm a believer. I'm a believer for right now, because I do think Joe Ryan, I've gone back and forth. Is there another gear? Is there not? Like, is he going to be able to survive 92 at the major league level and become like a frontline starter? Jury's still out. I've gone back and forth. I'm putting $25 on him to win Team Cy Young, because I think there's a decent chance he pitches the most innings on the team. And if he does that, and he's just Joe Ryan, I think he's got a pretty good shot. At 6-1, I like those odds. Tyler Mahle, I put $20 on Tyler Mahle. Went to Driveline. I know he did. I think Joe did. Tyler Mahle went to drive line, and he fixed up his slider too. That's sweeping action. Tyler Mahle, very good against lefties because of the splitter. His best off-speed pitch is a splitter. Has struggled with that slider / cutter against right-handed hitters. His fastball is awesome. I mean, plays up, a lot of zip. It's not 98, but it's, 93, 95. Plays up, hit 96 the other day I saw, which is great. I'm going to put $20 on Tyler Mahle. I think he's slept on. I like the odds at 6-1. $15 on Pablo Lopez. So I am really spreading this out because there's not a clear favorite. I like to spread my money around throughout the top 6 in odds. I just don't think Ober, Lopez, Jax, Thielbar, Varland are the field. I don't think it's a good bet. I don't think it's a good bang for my buck either. So I'm putting $15 on Pablo Lopez at 4-1. Pablo, I believe there's more there. Maybe overstated. If he's just who he was in 2022, I think he has a good chance to win the Team Cy Young Award. If he gets better, I think he has a really good chance to win the Team Cy Young Award. So I put $15 on him. And then I put $5 on Sonny Gray, $5 on Kenta Maeda. Maeda is worth it because we've seen what he can do when he's commanding. When he's commanding the ball and his stuff is there, he is an artist, as I've said many times on this show throughout the years. Kenta Maeda, he's an artist. Sonny Gray was their most efficient, most effective pitcher on a per inning basis last year. If he can throw 150, 180 innings at that level of effectiveness, yes, he's going to be the Team Cy Young winner, I think. $5 on Gray, $5 on Maeda. Those are my picks. So 25 Ryan, 20 Mahle, 15 on Lopez, 30 on Jhoan Duran, and then 5 on Maeda, 5 on Gray. I just don't think the others are a great bet. Here's how the Twins built their staff. I was looking at this today, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it. If not, I will explain it to you. This is so interesting to me. Pablo Lopez, this is the Twins' projected pitching staff for 2023 and how they were acquired. Pablo Lopez, trade with Miami. Sonny Gray, trade with Cincinnati. Tyler Mahle, trade with Cincinnati. Kenta Maeda, trade with the Dodgers. Joe Ryan, trade with Tampa Bay. Jhoan Duran, trade with Arizona. Jorge Lopez, trade with Baltimore. Caleb Thielbar was a minor league deal back in 2019 heading into 2020. Griffin Jax in the draft. Trevor McGill on waivers. Giovanni Moran in the draft. Emilio Pagan from the Padres. Jorge Alcala from Houston. This is so interesting how the Twins have built their staff. And it's a pretty solid staff, like top to bottom. I think what surprises people is they forget Jhoan Duran came from Arizona as a prospect in the Eduardo Escobar deal. The Twins have built this thing almost exclusively through trades for prospects, but trades for established veteran starters and Lopez, Gray, Mahle, Maeda. It's wild. And I'm hoping this year, maybe it's cheating a little bit because Bailey Ober is going to pitch a lot of innings for the Twins in 2023, and he was acquired in the draft. I think Samuel Woods Richardson is going to pitch a lot of innings. That was another trade. So it's going to balance each other out. It's interesting to me how that the entire staff that has become almost a philosophy to acquire your starters and your pitchers through trade in these various situations. Super intriguing. Rookie of the year odds. Here we go. Ed Julien at 3-1, Matt Wallner at 5-1, Louis Varland at 7-1, Royce Lewis at 10-1, Woods Richardson at 12-1, Brooks Lee at 14-1, Austin Martin 16-1, Jordan Balazovic 25-1, Ronnie Henriquez 30-1, and the field at 50-1 for Rookie of the Year. Giovanni Moran exceeded rookie limits last year in his stint, so he is not a rookie. He's not up for this. I would have had him at 20-1, Giovanni Moran. Ed Julien is the favorite at 3-1, Matt Wallner at 5-1. The reason I have Julien as the favorite is there's a clear path to playing time, I think. If Jorge Polanco goes down, I think Julian's up. For Wallner, if Gallo goes down or Kepler goes down or Buxton goes down, there's multiple guys ahead of him on the depth chart. You have Nick Gordon, you have Michael A. Taylor, you have Kyle Farmer could potentially play the outfield. The Twins seem to think he can play left field. I'm not saying all of these guys would be up before Wallner in those spots before Wallner. You have Trevor Larnach as well. Kirilloff can play the outfield, but he's got a tougher path, I think, to playing time than Ed Julien. Ed Julien's very simple. If Ed Julien rakes at AAA for a couple of weeks, I think they're super high on him, and he's going to be right in there as the team's DH. Wallner, I'm less optimistic. I picked him as 3 Twins I dislike for 2023. I'm less optimistic in the strikeout rate, and Julian's strikeout rate is still in the mid-20s against right-handed pitching. Matt Wallner, so much swing and miss, and we saw it at the major league level. I'm going to take a more wait and see approach on him. Maybe I should for both, but I just think Julian, it's a more refined strikeout rate, and it's palatable. Matt Wallner's is so high and was so high in his major league debut. I want to see more from him. I still have him at 5-1. He has the second best odds to win Twins Rookie of the Year. The power is insane. I also wasn't super intrigued with the defense last year or impressed by his right field defense. He's got a great arm. He can throw 95, I believe I've seen, but I wasn't impressed with the range in right field. I have him at 5-1 though, which is an implied probability at 17%. Louis Varland at 7-1. I'm on the Louis Varland train. Choo choo. I think he's going to throw a ton of innings. I think he's going to throw a ton of good innings. I think he's going to have a Joe Ryan type of rookie season for the Twins. Louis Varland. He also has guys ahead of him. This is less straightforward. I think Jose Miranda would have been the clear favorite, but after spring training, it would have been Duran and Miranda because Duran was so good in spring training and he was obviously going to make the opening day roster. Josh Winder probably would have been third because he made the opening day roster. It was a stronger class, it seemed, and there was going to be more opportunity right away for these guys. This year, it's a little bit different, and a large part of that is Royce Lewis being hurt. I have him at 10-1. If Royce Lewis was going to start the season healthy, he would be the runaway favorite, and there would be a stronger class coming out. But because he's going to be hurt for half the season potentially, or maybe even more, it dampens the class because he's your top prospect or your second best prospect, and he's lower on the list. So he's at 10-1. I still have him at 10-1. I still think Royce Lewis can win Team Rookie of the Year and in a half season. Simeon Richardson, he's behind a bunch of guys too. You can never have enough pitching. The Twins are probably going to trot out 11, 12, 13 starting pitchers this year like they always do. And I think Woods Richardson is going to get his opportunity. I have him at 12-1. Brooks Lee at 14-1 is a wild card, 7% implied probability. He would have to come up and get playing time right away and crush. The problem with Lee, I don't know what his path would be to the majors. Because if Polanco gets hurt, I think it's going to be Julian. If Miranda gets hurt, I think Kyle Farmer's just going to play third. But the Twins could potentially bring up Lee if Miranda gets hurt. Or if Kirilloff gets hurt, they swing Miranda over to first, and then Lee comes up to play third. Or maybe Lee plays second with Julian, who's DHing. There's ways for him to get there. If he hits and he's crushing in the upper minors, and he's the 8th pick from the 2022 draft, I think you have to bring him up. And I think the Twins, I think they will, if that's the case. And I'm a believer in his talent. So 14-1 might be a steal there for Brooks Lee. Austin Martin at 16-1, perhaps a bit too optimistic, but I think he has a role where he's going to steal some bags, where he's going to get on base. I think Austin Martin, his skill set, the Twins could use, maybe even on opening day. But the problem is he just last year was such a mess for a lot of it, and he was hurt. They can't do that right away. But I think Austin Martin at 16-1 is a decent value. Jordan Balzovic 25-1, probably would have had him higher if his jaw wasn't broken a couple Saturdays ago, but it was, and now he's set back. So he's 25-1. Ronnie Henriquez 30-1. Ronnie's a sleeper too. Ronnie could come up and surprise. I liked his stuff last year. Doesn't jump off the page, but he could come up and surprise. He's still projectable, like his frame. He's small and still throws in the low to mid 90s. He could add a couple more ticks of velo, and you could see him become a really good reliever. He came over in that Mitch Garver deal, and then the field at 50-1 is the last. If I had $100, who would I put it on? I'll put 30 on Ed Julien. He's my best bet. It's less spread out than my Cy Young picks. I would put 20 on Louis Varland. I wouldn't put anything on Matt Wallner for the reasons I mentioned. Royce Lewis, I would put 20 because I think he has the highest upside, and I'm not going to bet against him. I'm going to bet on him coming back and providing value for the Twins. That's also based on some projections I've seen, like Zips loves Royce Lewis. I think Pacoda loves Royce Lewis as well. I haven't seen it exclusively, but Zips loves him. I would put $10 on Woods Richardson just because my confidence in the rotation staying healthy throughout the season is lower, and you could see a Woods Richardson type of rookie year that Bailey Ober had in 2021 when he was the Twins Rookie of the Year. Austin Martin, I would put $10 as well. I didn't put anything on Brooks Lee, but I put $10 on Austin Martin because I like him at 16-1. The Twins, they brought in Paul Molitor. Paul Molitor's there in spring training to help them work on their base running, but it is a bad base running team. And if the Twins feel, if it gets even worse, because they've done nothing to make it better from a personnel standpoint other than Michael A. Taylor, but if it gets worse or it's still really bad and they're clogging up the bases, I could see a scenario where they call up Austin Martin as like a pinch runner or starts a couple times a week if he's hitting well at AAA in St. Paul. And then he carves out a role for himself and the talent just shines through there and he's getting on base at a 360 clip, stealing a bunch of bags, playing decent defense everywhere. And he's the Twins Rookie of the Year on the season. I could see that. So I put $10 on him as well. So 30 on Julien. I think he's the best bet to win Twins Rookie of the Year. I'm big on his talent. I'm big on his impact. I think he's going to have it on the 2023 roster. 20 on Varland. I think we'll throw a lot of innings. 10 on Woods Richardson as well in the rotation. Royce Lewis, 20 talent upside, even if it is a half season. You could see that. I mean, I could see it easily. Look what he did in, what was it, 8 games for the Twins? Could see it. Austin Martin, $10 as well because of the skill set, that refined skill set. I think Brooks Lee's a much better prospect than Austin Martin at this point in terms of projectability and future and like future value. I think Martin's ability to steal bases and ability to get on base in the minors, maybe he hasn't lost it all. Maybe he hasn't lost that on base and average that he brought in 2021 and down the stretch in 2022. So I put $10 on him. Let me know your picks for Team Cy Young odds and Rookie of the Year odds. Which ones do you like? Which odds do you think are too low, too high based on me? I made these. I try to be objective, but there's some subjectivity. Let me know what you think. If you had $100, who would you put your money on? Thank you so much for making Locked On Twins your first listen every single day on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'll make your second listen Locked On MLB Prospects. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Friday, we're going to have weekend storylines and what a successful season would look like for the Minnesota Twins in 2023. Thank you so much. Have a great day and go Twins.